Morning, it's Ariana Newcomer at Healing the Soul's Voice, Dove Oracle Priestess, and this is Wisdom Wednesdays. And our topic today is trees. And there's so many things about trees that we were never taught because our culture has been teaching us to kind of close in our senses and our perceptions and not to perceive things that are considered to be in the subtle realms or considered to be outside of what we think of as science. And of course, science doesn't know what it doesn't know. So sometimes science is not correct. So my experience, I live on land which is near forest in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California. And there are just incredible trees here that I've been connecting with over the years and working with. In many cases, if clients come to work with me here, we go to the trees and they get to have the experience of connecting directly with the trees themselves and receiving their guidance and information, which is extraordinary. So let's just take some deep breaths. Breathe into the belly, soften the belly, consciously slow and deep in the breath. So these are really intense times. There is so much in the news that is deeply upsetting. And many in the spiritual world try to have like no news. They try not to watch the news at all. But I feel that it's important for us to be informed. It's important for us to know what's going on. And of course, all the news is slanted towards the negative stuff because that's what gets people to watch. So what we can do is limit our exposure, but we can also go to the trees to shift our perspective, to run and clear our energy after watching something that's upsetting and that gets us riled up. The trees have such a different perspective, right? For one thing, they're so much longer lived than we are, that they get us to kind of slow down. And when we kind of enter their time runs differently for trees. It can be very, very soothing and helpful. And so I really want to encourage everyone to create a deeper connection with trees. There are many, many people on the planet who are working with trees, who are talking with trees. Yeah, trees have consciousness. Trees have an spirit, indwelling spirit. And some of the things that are really interesting to know is that trees' root systems actually produce many of the same neurotransmitters that our brains do. So we tend to think that if something doesn't have a brain, it doesn't have a consciousness. What if the tree's root systems are their brains? So they produce serotonin, they produce some of the other, I'm going to forget exactly which ones, but some of the exact same neurochemicals that we produce in our brains are produced by trees in their root systems. And actually the whole plant world, the natural world, uses many, many of the same biochemicals that we do as humans. So, for instance, estrogen and testosterone exist in the plant realm as well. Those aren't just human hormones. Those are things that plants use also, which means that plants have sexuality, right? So this is actually a really wonderful book that I've read. It's called Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm, and it's by Stephen Harrod Buhner. Show you that author's name. It's very thick. Of course, you can see all my sticky notes in here. I found this book really fascinating. This is one way for us to open our perceptions about trees in the natural world so that we can shift our relationship and come back into right relationship with nature. Instead of looking at nature as something we have to dominate and control, and it's our right to just take whatever we want from the natural world, we can come into an understanding of our part in the web of life, and that all of nature is truly important. One of the things to know about trees is that because they have these neurotransmitters in their roots, they're actually communicating with each other through their root systems. And if their roots aren't directly connected, they're connected through the mycelial networks underground, the fungal networks. So the mushrooms that we see on the surface are only the fruiting body of the mycelium, which lives underground. And that's an information highway. Trees actually share information with each other. They actually share nutrition with each other, nutrients with each other underneath the ground through their root systems. And they communicate also through their leaves. All plants actually give off chemicals through the leaves, the parts of them we see above the ground. And one of the things that's just delightful about trees to know is that we breathe each other. So everybody knows that trees produce oxygen, and oxygen is crucial for humans to live on the planet. But when we exhale carbon dioxide, and the trees take up carbon dioxide. So one of the things I would love to encourage you to do is when you're connecting with trees, is to have this awareness that we are breathing each other. When you inhale, you're inhaling the tree. And when you exhale, the tree is inhaling you. So this is another one of the ways that we are a part of the web of life. And we don't just take in oxygen with our breath, we take in whatever is in the air, which is a problem when there's pollution, which can cause difficulties with breathing, health problems, and lung cancer, even for those who don't smoke. But trees also help to filter those things out of the air that are not good for us. So bacteria also go up into the air and ride the winds. And fungal spores go up into the air and ride the winds and come down in new places. Bacteria help to create rain by going up and into the clouds, and a raindrop will actually form around a bacterium and then come back down. So, and we're breathing, when I live on the west coast of California, we breathe stuff that comes over from China. So when they have a big dust storm in China, that comes over here. And so part of that becomes part of me as I breathe it in. So it's a very useful shift in our perception and our perspective. But now let's talk about the deeper aspects of connecting with trees. So I'd like to invite you to think of a tree that you have really admired somewhere, or a tree that you feel particularly connected to. It might be one that's near where you live, and it might be one that you connected with as a child, a tree you used to climb as a kid, or a tree that you just were in awe of when you went to like Big Trees National Park with the enormous sequoias there. So think of a tree that you have either connected with already or that you deeply admired, that really had an impact on you. And take a deep breath. And as you visualize this tree in your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing in front of the tree. And take several minutes to breathe each other. Breathe in, understanding that you are breathing in the tree. You are breathing in chemicals that the tree has exhaled. And understand that as you exhale, the tree is taking in what you have just exhaled. And feel that circulation. of breathing each other. And then imagine placing your hands onto the trunk of the tree and ask to connect. Just ask. And then see what you get. And this is a place to suspend judgment. I studied craniosacral therapy many years ago with John Upledger, an osteopath who created the form that I studied. And he was a wonderful teacher. And one of the things he advised us in our first class when we're trying to feel or palpate the craniosacral rhythm, which is very subtle, was to suspend judgment. When you hear that voice in your head that says, oh, it's just my imagination, I'm not really feeling this, or I'm not really receiving anything from the tree, it's just my imagination, just let that go for now. Suspend judgment and be willing to expand your awareness, expand your perceptions. This has been a theme that my spirit guides have been bringing through all year for me in my full moon channelings that I send out to my email list each month. To expand our perceptions. We humans have been taught to limit ourselves generally to our 5 senses. And we actually have so much more. We have energy fields, and we can sense things in our energy fields. And our hearing is actually fairly limited. You know that dogs can hear pitches that are a lot higher than we can hear, while elephants can hear pitches that are much lower than we can hear, and probably whales as well. So there's a lot more out there than we can perceive through just our 5 senses. But when we use our intuition, when we use our energetic sense, and when we suspend judgment and allow our imaginations room to play, then we begin to receive these other kinds of information from the more subtle realms that we've been brought up not to pay attention to. And many of us might have been actually shamed by saying that we saw fairies as a child, or claiming that we could see spirits or something like that. So we've been trained out of it. So I'm inviting you to train yourself back in to being able to perceive things in these other ways. So feeling something in your body. You may get a felt sense of something from the tree. I know when I connect with trees in general, there's just a sense of calming and grounding. So trees have this effect of really getting us connected. And as you now I invite you to bring your awareness to the roots of the tree. So to expand your perceptions to what's underground instead of just seeing what's above ground, which is another thing that we tend to do as humans, is just pay attention to what's above the ground and forget about what's underneath. So what's below ground is really important, of course, for trees. That's where they get most of their nutrients, is from the earth, although they get it from the rain and from the winds also. So let your awareness kind of sink down into the roots and imagine that root system, and imagine the mycelium, the fungal networks, and imagine the connection there, and use your imagination to just sense, where does this tree connect to? Is this connected over a huge network underground? There's a famous aspen grove, I forget exactly where, it might be in Utah, that is connected for I think like 100 miles, all interconnected. So take a moment to just sense into that and just let yourself feel that awe and wonder of all that going on underground that we in general just kind of walk over the top of or never even notice at all. So sense into how your tree is connecting with the other trees around it. Sense how far its network goes. Some of them have these incredibly extensive networks. And especially if your tree is a very large, old tree, it will have an extensive network. And breathe deeply again and allow yourself to relax into that energy of the tree. Feel how that calms you. Feel how it grounds you. And then ask to receive that connection even deeper with the tree. Ask what kind of things it does. Is it locally networked? Is it more widely networked? Is it a transmuter, a transformer? Is it a historian? Just ask those kind of questions and allow your intuition and your imagination to give you those answers. Again, just suspend judgment and allow to come in whatever comes in. And I invite you to take this on as a practice. Connecting with trees, getting information from trees turns into getting guidance from trees, to receiving wisdom from trees. And it's very, very profound, and it's very healing. So helping us all shift our perspective from, oh, humans are the dominant ones on the planet, and we have the right to just dominate nature and take whatever we want from her, to, oh, we are breathing each other. Trees have many more functions, abilities than I understood before. Trees have consciousness, and trees have the ability to communicate with other trees, with other plants, and with us as humans. And this will be a deeply, deeply nourishing practice for you, and deeply healing. It's healing for our souls to come into these kinds of relationships with trees. And the trees generally do really, really appreciate it when we connect with them and start working with them in these ways. And once you have deeply connected with a tree, you can begin to ask, what can we do together? And what can I offer you as the tree? And sometimes the trees just want us to connect. They just want that connection, and they want the love that we can give them. So give the trees love. Sometimes they want hugs. Tree hugging is a real thing, good for us and for the trees. And sometimes there are bigger aspects of work in the spirit realms that the trees might want to do with us. So these are all wonderful ways that we can help to create the change that we need on the planet, is to reconnect ourselves with this very intricate web of life, and with the trees as these fabulous, fabulous beings that have so much to offer and so much to give us. And I do soul healing with the trees retreat days here on the property where I live. If that is something that you are interested in, I will put a link in the comments below so that you can connect with me to talk about what a healing day with the trees might look like for you. The trees here are truly extraordinary, and some of them are deep, deep healers. So it's a wonderful way to do that deep healing work that all of us need to just do ongoingly, continually, as humans, in a new and different way, and in a way that's deeply profound, deeply satisfying, deeply healing. So thanks for watching. Again, it's Ariana Newcomer, Dove Oracle Priestess, and I look forward to talking with you in the future.